When I first started working at Halverson Consulting, I believed I had finally found a place where loyalty and hard work actually meant something. I arrived early every day, often staying late into the night under the flickering fluorescent lights, pouring every ounce of energy I had into helping build the company's reputation. It wasn't just a job for me. It was a commitment, a pact I made silently with myself that if I gave my all, I would rise. For a while, that belief seemed justified. Promotions came, clients praised my dedication, and even Mr. Halverson himself, stone-faced and infamously cold, would sometimes nod in my direction during company meetings. Then came Tyler. Tyler Halverson, the boss's only son, fresh out of a lackluster college career and brimming with the kind of misplaced confidence that only a lifetime of privilege could cultivate. I was told, not asked, to take Tyler under my wing. "Show him the ropes," Mr. Halverson said with an impatient wave of his hand, as if Tyler was just another intern and not his own flesh and blood. I tried to hide the tightness in my jaw, as I agreed. After all, mentoring someone was another chance to prove my value, right? Another gold star next to my name. Training Tyler was like teaching a cat to swim. He rolled his eyes at meetings, scrolled on his phone during client calls, and treated every piece of advice I gave him like a personal insult. He showed up late, disheveled, sometimes smelling like last night's liquor, and he made it painfully clear he thought the work we did was beneath him. Still, I persisted. I broke down complex projects into bite-sized tasks, sat beside him for hours explaining the nuances of negotiation, and even covered for him when he inevitably made mistakes that could have cost us clients. I thought stupidly that if I worked hard enough, if I proved my loyalty enough, I would be protected. The day the knife slid into my back started like any other. I had just finalized a massive proposal for Breckridge and Associates, our biggest and most lucrative client. A contract renewal worth millions that would guarantee another year of prosperity for the firm. I was sitting in my office sipping lukewarm coffee and daydreaming about taking a weekend off, when Mr. Halverson called me into the conference room. His tone was clipped, his words rehearsed. Tyler sat smugly at the end of the table, twirling, a pen between his fingers and refusing to meet my eyes. "We're going to have to let you go," Mr. Halverson said, not even blinking. I laughed at first, a sharp, ugly sound that bounced off the sterile walls. "Is this a joke?" Mr. Halverson's face remained an unreadable mask. "It's not a joke, Evan. We're restructuring. Tyler will be taking over your accounts effective immediately." My chest tightened painfully. For a few seconds I forgot how to breathe. "Restructuring?" I repeated, the word foreign and sticky on my tongue. "I trained him. I built those accounts. You can't—" "I can and I have," he interrupted, his voice final, heavy with the authority of someone who knew there was nothing I could do. The humiliation hit me in waves, each more suffocating than the last. I gathered what little dignity I had left, nodding stiffly and refusing to let them see me break. I packed my things in silence while Tyler watched from the hallway, arms crossed, a smirk playing on his lips. Every stapler, every framed photo, every worn notepad I shoved into the cardboard box felt like a funeral for the life I had built. As I walked out of the building for the last time, my fingers gripping the edges of the box so tightly they ached, the world outside seemed offensively normal. Cars sped by, people sipped coffee, children laughed from a nearby park. Didn't they know my world had ended? But somewhere deep inside me, beneath the bruised pride and seething anger, a tiny ember of something else began to glow. It wasn't acceptance. It wasn't grief. It was something sharp, something clean. It was rage, pure and blinding, and it whispered to me that I wasn't finished yet. I spent the weekend in a haze, barely eating, barely sleeping, just pacing the thin strip of carpet in my cramped apartment while replaying every moment of my betrayal. Shame clung to me like a second skin, but beneath it, the ember of rage kept growing, fanned by every memory of Tyler's smug face, every dismissive glance Mr. Halverson had thrown my way when he told me I was disposable. I thought about all the years I had given them, the late nights, the weekends sacrificed, the birthdays missed, all for a company that had discarded me without a second thought. By Sunday night, something inside me snapped into focus. I wasn't going to just accept this. No. If they thought they could toss me aside and hand everything I had built to an arrogant, incompetent brat, they were about to learn exactly how wrong they were. I didn't have much to my name, but I had something more valuable than a title or an office: relationships. Over the years, I had become the face of Halverson Consulting for our biggest clients. I was the one they called at midnight when a deal went sideways, the one they trusted to fix problems quietly and efficiently, and none were bigger, more important, than Breckridge and Associates. I drafted an email that night, short, professional, but heavy with implication. I asked Mr. Breckridge if he had time for coffee. No mention of Halverson, no begging or dramatics, just a simple request between two professionals who had worked closely for years. I hit send and watched the message leave my inbox, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. The reply came faster than I expected. Less than an hour later, a terse but warm message appeared on my screen. Tomorrow at 10, same place. I barely slept, my mind racing with possibilities. But when I arrived at the little cafe tucked into the corner of 7th and Main, Mr. Breckridge was already there, his suit immaculate, a cup of black coffee steaming in front of him. He looked up as I approached, his sharp eyes narrowing slightly. "Evan," he said, his voice carrying the weight of years of boardrooms and backroom deals. "Heard some news?" I sat down slowly, feeling the gravity of the moment settle around us. "I'm sure you have," I said quietly. He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "They let go of their best man. Tell me why I should trust Halverson. Without you." Hearing those words, something inside me cracked wide open. All the bitterness, the anger, the betrayal, it flooded out of me in a carefully measured tone, one sentence at a time. I explained everything without whining or pleading, just laying out the facts like stones on a table. Tyler's incompetence, the blatant nepotism, how I had been pushed aside after building the relationships that kept the company afloat. I told him how much I had cared about getting things right, about making sure our deals were solid, sustainable, profitable, for everyone. When I finished, Mr. Breckridge sat silently for a long moment, his fingers steepled under his chin. Then he nodded, once, sharply. "Good. Because I was about to pull out anyway. Last meeting with Tyler was a disaster. Kid couldn't even explain the basics of our contract." Relief and disbelief collided inside me, but I kept my face calm, my breathing steady. "So what now?" I asked carefully. He gave a small, cold smile. "Now, you and I talk about how you're going to take your skills somewhere they'll actually be valued." And just like that, a new path opened in front of me. One paved not with loyalty to a crumbling company, but with loyalty to myself, to my own worth, to everything I had fought for all those thankless years. I left that cafe with a fire burning in my chest that no amount of betrayal could extinguish. I wasn't just walking away with my dignity intact. I was walking away with their biggest client tucked securely under my arm. The days that followed were a blur of movement and adrenaline. My body propelled forward by a mixture of determination and rage that kept me from ever sitting still for too long. I spent hours hunched over my kitchen table, papers strewn everywhere, my laptop glowing deep into the night as I mapped out every detail of the next chapter of my life. I wasn't just taking Breckridge and Associates with me. I was building something of my own, from the ground up, piece by piece, no shortcuts, no safety nets. Mr. Breckridge had made it clear he was ready to move with me, but he also made it clear he wasn't interested in half measures. "I'm not dragging my company into a gamble, Evan," he said during our second meeting, his gaze hard and unwavering. "I'm trusting you because of what you've proven. But you'd better have a real structure in place, a real team, a real plan." And so I did. I called every old colleague I trusted, every sharp mind and loyal heart I had crossed paths with over the years, people who had grown just as tired as I had of working for companies that saw them as nothing more than tools to be discarded. Some had moved on to other firms, some were freelancing, some were burnt out and ready for something better. When I explained what I was building, an agency that valued competence, loyalty, vision, they didn't hesitate. One by one, they said yes. By the end of the second week, I had secured a tiny office space downtown, no bigger than a broom closet, but it had 4 walls and a door that locked, and right now that was enough. I called the company Ember Strategies, because it reminded me of the way rage had smoldered in my chest, quietly at first, then roaring to life when everything seemed lost. Setting up shop wasn't glamorous. I assembled desks with blistered hands, spent what little money I had on second-hand computers, and survived on ramen and black coffee. There were nights I crashed on the dusty office floor because I couldn't justify the time it would take to go home. But every morning I rose with the same thought. They thought they could bury me. They didn't realize I was a seed. Meanwhile, the rumors spread through the city's corporate world like wildfire. Whispers about what had happened at Halverson Consulting reached ears that mattered. Clients grew nervous. They saw the cracks forming, the foundation shaking, and they started to look elsewhere for security, for leadership, for someone who could steer the ship in uncertain waters. And it wasn't just Breckridge and Associates anymore. Other clients, big names, important names, started reaching out to me quietly, asking for meetings, asking for advice, asking if there was room for them at Ember Strategies. Each conversation felt like a balm on the raw, open wound Halverson had left behind. Every new handshake, every new signed contract stitched me back together stronger than before. But the moment I truly realized the magnitude of what I had done came 2 months later, when I walked into the grand ballroom of the Harrington Hotel for the annual Industry Leaders Gala. It was the event of the year, a place where contracts were whispered over champagne flutes and future mergers were born in the shadows of towering floral displays. And for the first time, I wasn't attending as someone's underling. I was there as the founder and CEO of Ember Strategies. I adjusted the simple black tie around my neck, smoothed the lines of my second-hand suit, and walked into that room with my head held high. Around me, conversations faltered. Heads turned. I caught Mr. Halverson's eye across the sea of glittering dresses and sharp tuxedos. His expression was a portrait of disbelief, quickly masked by brittle anger. Beside him, Tyler fidgeted nervously, his bravado crumbling under the heavy silence. I gave them a small, almost imperceptible nod, the kind of nod a king might give to an enemy fallen from grace, and turned away without waiting for their reaction. They were no longer my concern. They were relics of a past I had outgrown. Tonight was about the future. My future. The night unfurled like a vivid tapestry, each conversation another thread weaving itself into the larger story I was now authoring. Old colleagues approached me with cautious admiration, raising their glasses in quiet toasts, speaking in low voices about how they had heard what happened, how they admired the way I had landed on my feet, how they wished they had had the guts to do the same. Competitors eyed me warily, sensing the shift in the wind, the subtle changing of the guard that none of them could deny any longer. And through it all, I kept moving, calm, deliberate, strategic. I introduced myself as the CEO of Ember Strategies, without hesitation, letting the words settle on my tongue like a prayer answered after a long, brutal storm. I could see the recognition flicker across faces as they heard it. Ember Strategies, the name that was already beginning to carry weight in rooms that had once been closed to me. Late into the evening, I felt a tap on my shoulder and turned to find Mr. Breckenridge standing there, his silver hair gleaming under the chandeliers, a sly smile curving his lips. Without preamble, he clinked his glass gently against mine. "Looks like you're doing just fine," he said, his voice laced with a kind of dry pride that warmed something deep inside me. "I owe a lot of it to your trust," I replied, meaning it more than I could say. He shook his head. "You owe it to yourself. All I did was see what was already there." I smiled, real and full, for the first time in what felt like forever. We stood there for a moment, two men who had weathered storms and chosen to bet on resilience rather than comfort, on grit rather than power handed down like a birthright. Across the room, Mr. Halverson and Tyler still lingered, abandoned by clients who now flocked to newer, stronger alliances. Tyler's face was pale and tight, his father's jaw clenched in fury he could no longer conceal. They were ghosts now, relics of a world that was crumbling around them while mine was being reborn in gold and steel and fire. When I finally left the gala, the cool night air hit my face and I closed my eyes, breathing in deeply, letting the crispness of it fill my lungs. The city sprawled out before me, alive with endless possibilities. I thought about the years I had given away so freely, about the trust I had placed in people who had seen me as expendable, and I felt no regret. They had taught me something priceless. Never put your destiny in someone else's hands. As I walked to my car, the moonlight pooling in silver puddles on the asphalt, I knew with a certainty that burned hotter than anything else. This was just the beginning. Ember strategies would rise, fed by every betrayal, every long night, every moment I had been underestimated. I smiled up at the stars, feeling that fierce ember glow even brighter inside me. They had fired me thinking they were ending my story, but all they had done was light the match.